Hello guys, welcome to our second variables review. So in this lesson, we're going to continue to review the independent and dependent variables from the lens of cause and effect, with the independent variable representing the cause and the dependent variable representing the effect. And this is really important because you're going to encounter many graphs as we explore the unit and we move on to new units. And I always want to anchor you back to variables because they are key in the study of science. So again, we have another experiment, and we will start off with an annotation. So you're going to highlight the independent variable or the cause in yellow, and you're going to highlight the dependent variable or the effect in green. And if you are up for a challenge, go ahead and circle some constants if you can identify any. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read our plant growth tomato plants experiment. So a study from 2019 looked at how different amounts of sunlight affected the growth of tomato plants. The growth of tomato plants was measured in height, which is shown in millimeters. The study measured the effect of different amounts of sunlight exposure a day. So you have 1 hour of sunlight exposure, 3 hours of sunlight exposure, 6 and 9 hours of sunlight exposure. So if you need to reread this, feel free to reread it and start those annotations. And when you're done, press play so we can continue with our work. Welcome back. So what you're seeing right in front of you is a graph, and it is a visual representation of the experiment we just read about and annotated. So you can go ahead, you can look over the graph, make any annotations you need, but before you do that, I want to go over some key things. So if you notice, there are 4 lines on the graph. So the line with a diamond, with diamond plots, represents the data for the tomato plant that was exposed to 1 hour of sunlight. Okay. The one with kind of like star looking icon represents the plant that was exposed to 3 hours of sunlight. Triangle, 6 hours of sunlight, and X, 9 hours of sunlight. So that is why you have those four lines. They each represent a different amount of sunlight received. So after reviewing your experiment description and your graph, you can go ahead and record the cause or the independent variable. So again, this is a guiding question that I always give to my students. What caused the different results? What was the cause of the different results? That is your independent. And record your effect or your dependent variable, which I also refer to as your outcome, your results, your data, and so forth. And when you're done recording those, under the appropriate column, press play so we can continue with our work. All right, so it is the moment of truth. It is time to check our work. For our independent variable, you should have written down the amount of time that the plant was exposed to sunlight. I repeat, the amount of time that the plant was exposed to sunlight. For the dependent or the effect, you should have the height of the plant. All right, so now that we have completed that practice, it's time for our throwback challenge. So, as I said before, I'm not going to let you forget old content. So, let's review selective breeding and genetic engineering in our throwback challenge. So I have provided a description of a process, and I will read it, and you can read it a second time if you need to, or third, whatever works for you. And you're going to determine if that process is a representation of selective breeding or genetic engineering. And then in the third column, you're going to write down what clues helped you come to that conclusion. So let's see how much of last unit you remember. All right, so to produce large tomatoes that are resistant to cracking and splitting, some seed companies use the pollen from one variety of tomato plant to fertilize a different variety of tomato plant. This process is an example of, now is the time to hit pause, reread, select your response, and note your clues. And when you're done, press play for a review of the answer. All right, guys, welcome back. And remember, you can only listen to this section if you've tried this first. So, the moment of truth. What is this process an example of? If you wrote down selective breeding, you are absolutely correct. Some of the clues that I identify from the reading are gathering pollen from one variety of tomato plant to fertilize a different tomato plant. And this is a perfect clue because it's showing you that they are selecting what to cross so that they can get the desired traits, right, in their crops. So with that said, congratulations, you have finished another variable review. You have completed another throwback, and now you're ready to tackle any challenge your teacher throws your way. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.